Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, it's pretty much undeniable at this point. There's only one way to describe what we're currently seeing, and especially after Ron DeSantis crashed and burned. I think a lot of people had this idealistic vision of who Ron DeSantis was in their mind. Again, he's a decent politician, but he's just not the guy that people thought he was. And after his first event, after people are coming to that realization, well, it's all leading to this one phenomenon that we've covered a million times before. The Trump surge. And boy, is that happening. Joe Biden has been playing so many dishonest games. I mean, I follow his Twitter account, so you don't have to. It's nothing but dishonest campaign propaganda. No matter how hard they try to make the point that he's the better option, it seems as though it's falling flat on its face. People are simply not believing the Dem BS. And the prevailing thought, at least right now, based on the numbers I'm seeing, is that Trump is the better option. People are viewing Trump as the better option in the Republican primary, and even in the head-to-head matchup, Donald Trump is leading in polls where you really wouldn't expect it. In fact, he's breaking long-standing trends. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. As the Trump surge begins and hopefully continues, we've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, this right here is by far the most stunning thing that I've seen in a very long time in terms of polling analysis. We've been covering polls for years, and we've sort of, I guess, categorized and compartmentalized different pollsters as being credible, left-wing hacks, yada yada, you get it. Now, some of the worst offenders when it comes to left-wing bias polls historically have been YouGov, Harvard-Harris, Fox News surprisingly, Quinnipiac, and the Marquette Poll, Marquette University. Well, we've already covered that Trump is leading in the Harvard-Harris poll, the YouGov poll, even in ABC News/Washington Post, although if my memory serves me correct, they tend to be a little bit more accurate. We've covered all that, but what I wasn't expecting, news that I was not expecting again to wake up to this morning, was this. Donald Trump is now leading by 5 points in the Marquette University poll. Just take a look at this tweet from Interactive Polls. Marquette Poll. Trump holds a 5-point lead over Biden with leaners. Trump at 52% plus 5, and Democrat Biden at 47%. This is Donald Trump's biggest lead in the Marquette National Poll's history, and a 5-point swing towards Trump for March. Donald Trump has never led a Marquette University poll by this magnitude ever in the history of the poll. In fact, mostly, especially during early polling data, way ahead of the general election, we're still not even at the primaries. Generally, you'd expect to see Marquette showing a Biden lead by anywhere from 10 to 15 points. Instead, we're seeing Trump lead by 5. That is absolutely freaking insane. Now, of course, we've learned our lesson here. We can't read too much into these polls. They give us an idea, but for the most part, they're totally unreliable. But it's got to say something. I mean, it's got to mean something. Marquette has their survey standards or their survey methods, and historically, following that model, based on the people that they call, based on the people that they survey, they have always released Democrat biased numbers. Always. Well, I'm going by the assumption that they've changed absolutely nothing in their methods. They're still calling the same kind of people. They're still probably following the same Democrat-Republican spread, yet they're getting widely different results. That to me has to mean something. That means in the middle ground with independents, with maybe moderate Democrats, and even with never Trump Republicans, there has to be some sort of shift. Where honestly, I think it's less of viewing Donald Trump favorably, because let's be honest, Donald Trump is not the most favorable candidate. Of course, he has his base loves him, that's gonna stay the way that it is. But no matter what Donald Trump does, he's never really gonna win over the sort of soft independent voter that can't handle mean tweets. He's never gonna be able to win those people over. But we might have reached a breaking point where Joe Biden's old age, Joe Biden's incompetence, his inability to perform and achieve basic decent results, and of course the slow march towards socialism of the left and the radicalism, how they're behaving right now in terms of their negotiations with Republicans on spending, middle ground voters are probably getting to a point where it's like, listen, we cannot handle this guy anymore, we cannot deal with this guy anymore, and Trump is the better option. I think that's possibly what we're seeing right now. And data like this from the most recent CNN poll kind of reinforces that thought that I'm having. This CNN poll questioned, thinking ahead to 2024 for president, if insert candidate won the election, would that be a disaster/setback for the country or a step forward? When Biden's name is placed in that question, 66% believe that it would be a disaster/setback. and only 33% believe that it would be a step forward. I mean, absolutely fascinating. 33% of the country believe that electing a geriatric, brain-melting, incompetent old piss-pants fool with a 6-decade-long history in politics achieving absolutely nothing, that would be a step forward. Interesting. When Donald Trump's name is inserted in that same line of questioning, only 56% believe that it would be a disaster/setback, and 43% believe that it would be a step forward. 10% more people believe that it would be good for the country, and 10% less believe that it would be a major setback or a disaster for the country. That's rather significant. In other words, I guess the more popular view is that Donald Trump is not as bad as Joe Biden. You know, that concept that we keep bringing up, maybe Donald Trump wasn't that bad. A lot of people are realizing that as they compare and contrast the two candidates. I think right now the key is independence. People claim that Donald Trump's weakness is independence. That's why Ron DeSantis is the better option. But again, if we look at independence, I think it's a moment of realization. Once again, we've covered Joe Biden's approval rating when it comes to middle of the ground voters. They frickin' hate him on almost every single issue. His approval rating has been in the gutter in the 20s to 30s with independent voters. Who do independents hate more, Trump or Joe Biden? The answer, in my opinion, is resoundingly Joe Biden. Maybe it wasn't like that during the 2020 election, but right now that is 100% the case, based on the numbers. And I think once again we're seeing it in early polling metrics. I tend to view states like Nevada and New Hampshire, middle ground, bellwether states. I mean, these states are truly purple. The politics are moderate, independent, right down the middle. They can go any way. Well, early polling data is showing that Trump has a resounding lead or is performing admirably. In Nevada, for instance, we have a poll from Nevada Appeal, which is currently making news. 2024 general election in the state of Nevada, Donald Trump is leading at 48 to 40%. He's leading Joe Biden by 8 points in the head-to-head or hypothetical head-to-head matchup. Ron DeSantis is leading by 10 points, but has less support than Donald Trump. That's significant. Again, we really haven't seen numbers like that, especially not early numbers. It seems like long-standing trends are breaking. Now let's take a look at New Hampshire. Again, one of these middle-of-the-ground states. Poll shows that Democrats are not big on Biden in New Hampshire, and Trump still leads on the GOP side. You know, all the Ron DeSantis shills and Democrats kept saying that Trump may be leading with the overall vote in the Republican primary ahead of Ron DeSantis, but what really matters is the important states. Well, would you categorize New Hampshire as one of those important states? I mean, that seems to be a place where Ron DeSantis would be killing it. He's getting completely BTFO'd by Trump. And Joe Biden's popularity, even with Democrats in the state of New Hampshire, is in the gutter. I'm simply not buying any of these bogus narratives. If we look at the aggregate, again, we can only say one thing, and that's that Trump is surging if we look at favorability. Well, would you look at that? After all the attacks, after all the court cases and lawsuits, Donald Trump is once again back on top as the most favorable politician or major political leader currently on the national stage. Joe Biden continues to tank. And again, I think Democrats are playing into Donald Trump's superpower, his political superpower, of being the persecuted man going against the corrupt establishment. The more they go after him, the more he surges. This is an incredible poll, and again, I think it's the most important point that needs to be freaking hammered. 63% of Americans believe that Trump-Russia smear was, quote, a hit job against Donald Trump, and a majority of people asked want the FBI to be criminally prosecuted for their actions. I thought we were extremists and conspiracy theorists for even suggesting that. Well, it seems like a large portion of American voters actually agree. I thought Donald Trump was crazy for saying that kind of stuff, but it seems like not so much. It seems like Donald Trump was right, once again. And this point, like I said, needs to be hammered over and over and over again. It should be one of the main elements of his campaign. The amount of evidence, the amount of document evidence that shows DNC collusion, whether it be the Hillary Clinton campaign or the Joe Biden campaign, with FBI officials and CIA officials, straight up collusion and interference in the elections, is shocking, and the American people must be made aware. Honestly, policies aside, regardless of the fact that Donald Trump was a great president, for me at least, it's the most compelling argument. Just based on principle. You have corrupt shadow officials working behind the scenes to stop him. It's all the more reason why he should win. So these corrupt agencies can be flushed. The Trump surge is here, and let's just hope it continues. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.